Welcome, everybody, to the Inspired Racing League podcast. I'm your host, Elijah Fisher, driver of the number 4 Ford Mustang for the Inspired Racing League. Make sure to go ahead and hit the follow buttons. Well, this is episode 1 of the Inspired Racing League. I'm your host here for the podcast, and we've got a good one for you. Anyway, so our podcast for today. A couple of subjects, obviously. We are going to be talking to the race winner, Kameron Wesenberg, as you can see from my notes page there. We'll go ahead, grab his interview here real quick, and put it into the podcast. All right, so I am here now with our Daytona winner, Kameron Wesenberg. And Kameron, you were the Daytona winner on Monday night. Walk me through kind of the strategy there that you had to get yourself into victory lane.
Well, we had a lot more Toyotas show up for this race than we had in the preseason, so we had a little bit more help out there. So we were kind of able to kind of stick together. I think we had a close competition up there with the Fords. The Fords were really pushing it really good. Sticking together. So did Toyotas. Most of the time we were up high, but there at the end we were kind of up high and down low. But mostly the strategy all night was just stick together and try to miss the wrecks. There was maybe 1 or 2 wrecks that I got involved in, but the damage wasn't too severe, and actually still had a fast repair at the end, so that was good.
Yeah, it's really important, I think, with saving those fast repairs, but that's good to be able to manage it, staying out of trouble there. We were just pulling it up here to just kind of show from the broadcast. You were P4 on the last lap, going down the back straightaway. Looked like you pushed your Toyota teammate out to the lead. What was kind of running through your mind when you were going into turn 3 and then after the incident here with the 88 off of turn 4?
Yeah, me and Tommy, we grew up together, raced together a lot. Actually going racing street stocks together in real life here soon, so that's going to be fun. But I was trying to stick with my buddy there, and I was telling him to get down. At the same time I was telling him to get down, I was trying to look in the mirror and clear myself of the 20 that was on the inside there going into 3, and I almost got hung like almost on his right rear trying to get down. It was like real close. And then I believe it was the 88, you said. He kind of got a big run there. And when he hit me in the bumper, it just sent me into that wrong position of the car that you definitely don't want to be on square when you hit him. So I kind of hit my buddy there, and he kind of hit the wall pretty hard and did a lot of barrel rolls. It made for good TV. And then coming off 4 there, I knew that the 88 was going to have a run, but I honestly didn't know he was going to be right there as I was coming up. The idea was to move up before he got there so I could try to maneuver him that way to where I can get a side draft and give myself a shot at it. It definitely wasn't intentions to hit him that hard and knock him that sideways, and I apologize for that. But it's coming to the line at Daytona and get kind of jumbled up there in the turn, and someone else uses up the racetrack, so you gotta sometimes give it right back.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was kind of viewed from a lot of the fans watching and said it seemed like it was a racing incident, just kind of a battle to the line. It's hard racing with contact, obviously. So you get the victory at Daytona, and a question that was popped up once or twice through the week, some people were wondering, you have a nickname, Smoke? If you wanted to kind of, I guess, elaborate on that for the podcast here. What's the nickname there?
A lot of people get it mixed up and get the wrong idea behind it. Think other things, but growing up, I was a big Tony Stewart fan, so I always try to do things to smoke way on the track. Sometimes it gets me in a little bit of trouble, and sometimes it wins races. But yeah, I just always admired the way Tony drove, and always was a big fan. It's definitely easier being a bigger Tony Stewart fan instead of trying to be that Dale Jr. fan with the kind of disappointment there of not having that Cup championship, if that makes sense. But yeah, so back on the PS4, I started, I think when I first had PlayStation and started racing, I created Smoke Junior 14. And then now I've transitioned over to Smoke Junior 32, being my own number behind it. So at first it was Smoke Junior 14, and it made more sense then because Stewart was the 14 at the time.
Well, that makes sense. I didn't even think of Tony Storton his nickname, to be honest. I figured it was just the nickname just given from friends or whatever. But that's a good way to have a Daytona with a little contact and representation for Tony there.
Yeah, definitely kind of reminds you of the Burger King car and that Interstate Green car that was racing that year. And I think it was the COT cars with the wings on the back. I think it was that year with those cars.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned you're racing in real life, and you're coming up to a new series for that. How long have you been racing for?
I started racing in 2012. I'm not starting a new series, but my buddy Tommy, he's actually got a street stock, and we're working on getting it pieced together and motor put in, motor built, motor found. So if anybody hears the podcast and got a 350 laying around for a good car, that'll be handy.
You always
Street stock.
always gotta be looking for those parts.
But yeah, we're gonna be traveling around a little bit. Hopefully running Montgomery, Pensacola, and Mobile, doing that. I put a new body on my car last year, so it's got a few scratches on it from a couple races I ran last year. Towards the end, got it together at the end, everything put back together. But yeah, racing since 2012. Fun fact, actually won Rookie of the Year twice. I don't know how they messed it up, but I won it in 2012 and 2013. They were swapping in between race track managers or whatever. But yeah, that's a fun fact. Started racing with my dad. He also races from time to time with us. And my sister gets in the car, and she's been driving my dad's car, so he's been having to sit out and kind of watch us. But got a lot going on out there in real life racing this year. Like I said, Montgomery, Pensacola, Mobile. If anybody listens to the podcast around that area, come check us out. We're going to try to run the Triple Crown Street Stock Series. It's going to be 3 races at those 3 tracks for a overall champion doing that.
Nice, excellent. Well, wish you luck with that, obviously. Something to note here. The top 3 on what would have been the final restart here, actually, second to final restart here, caution number 9, 11 to go in the race. Tommy was leading, you were P2, Chris Liotta would have been P3, which means that the top 3 drivers have all been real-life drivers, as Chris Liotta has been at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for some, it was the modifieds. So, any pressure going into Daytona, I guess, when you've got everybody in the Gen 6 cars compared to street stocks, or do you think you've got a lot of confidence with your car in these Gen 6s? I know there's obviously probably a lot more speed in these, but what's the difference between the series you run in real life or have compared to these?
Definitely a lot more horsepower. You can definitely say that, but honestly, driving a street stock in real life is almost similar feeling to what the late model stocks feel on here to me. Like, the street stocks on here are kind of like more pitchy, I would say, and get more looser than what we're feeling now, which comes with all the rule changes in the classes and different upgrades with outboard shocks on our cars now instead of stock mounting location stuff, and just a variety more things we can do with our suspension that changes that. And maybe iRacing can kind of get it kind of closer. Definitely not the speeds are as fast as a late model, but the driving and ability of them is kind of similar to me. And back to the cars we drive in here, uh, that I think it was a pre-race we did at Martinsville. I had like no practice at all. I just came in and qualified or whatnot. I think it was like 2 laps of practice maybe. And it was just really being able to get the car slowed down there and get a good turn off. They were really sketchy on entry if you overshot it in the back one to come around. So far, I think it's going to be pretty good. I tested a Daytona road course last night. I'm still going to be somewhere in the back on that one for sure. That's a tough track, and definitely with the cars with this horsepower. But we'll keep testing throughout the week and see what we can come up with and try not to run anybody over.
All right. Yeah, and that tied into the next question, too. I had next week, it's the Daytona road course, and then we finally get to an oval, which is the primary for the series. But you've mentioned you're kind of a short track guy. You've mentioned in a driver's channel the other night, you had mentioned that this racing at this road course is going to kind of put some of the guys who can control their cars a little bit better going to probably be the ones to survive a bit better. So what's your thoughts on the Daytona road course being race 2 as opposed to having an oval?
It definitely switches it up a lot. But I don't have a problem with it because it's early in the season. So you still got time to make up points. So that can be a little more helpful with it being early instead of late in the season because you got an opportunity to fill in the gap where you might lose some points. But road course racing is really different from oval track racing, and you just really got to be able to downshift the car properly there. And it's about really engine braking helps a lot there, I've noticed. But learning how to do that without being too high RPMs and wheel hopping and all this, really just being really consistent and smooth. I've seen a lot of people that I used to race with, AJ and Steven. I think they'll be really competitive here at the road course. I've seen AJ run the road courses, and he's beat me a bunch of times there. That's definitely not my strong suit, but Watkins Glen, that's a different story. I can drive at Watkins Glen. It's just all these other turns they throw me off. Watkins Glen is more fast-paced, where the other road courses you have to slow down a lot more and get it more woed up rather than just cutting through the tracks.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Watkins Glen unfortunately didn't make it to the schedule for this season, but it's been highly requested, at least for season 2. With that in mind, there's a couple of road courses on the schedule that, I mean, similar to Watkins Glen, not quite the same. But with all that said, we'll move on to the next subject then. You are in a position right now with that win at Daytona where 3 other drivers are going to have to win, and they're going to have one of those 3 drivers collecting more points than you. So you're at least going to be in that bubble for this playoff format where the top 3 most winning drivers will clinch off of those wins. So how do you feel kind of with, I mean, ultimately, the best advantage you could have to start the season and managing that, as long as you can really just maintain that points gap for the next couple of weeks, you think that's going to help motivate you when we get to the middle of the season? Or do you think you need to get a second win to really maybe hold on and clinch off of those wins?
Well, you always go into a race, mindset that you can win every race. You gotta have that mentality as a racer. You can say that you're absolutely terrible at a track, right? But you've got to tell yourself, I can win this race. And always ask yourself while you're in the car, why not us and why not me? Why can't we win this race? If anybody else can do it, then that means you can do the same thing. It's all about the preparation and work that gets put into it. I'm sure if I absolutely grind it out this week and really get in and practice the road course and learn the marks and get ahead of the game, that's definitely going to help. So I would definitely encourage everybody to definitely go test the track. It's already on the iRacing in the session. You can go test it, drive it, and kind of learn to hit your marks without being too out of control and sideways where you know that's going to cause an accident when you get other cars involved.
Yeah, that kind of ties into our next question. You
I'm
mentioned
good at this.
the cautions. Yeah, we're doing great with that. So you kind of mentioned with the cautions here, we had 10 cautions total for 32 out of the 94 laps that we completed. Obviously, the session ended, but which we
Very
called
lucky
rain.
number, 32.
Yep. So it seemed like things were kind of setting up for you there. But walk me through, how do we navigate those cautions and what can help for next week especially?
Um, I think the aggression level could have calmed down a little bit there at the beginning of the race. I understand if we have like 10 cautions in the last 20 laps or something, but just tearing up cars that early and just being that aggressive and making the moves, and it, you just can't win the race on lap 6, 20. You got to make it to the white flag to make it to the checkered flag, and I think if everybody goes back and just reevaluates that, like, you got to be there to finish the race. If you go out there and absolutely crash the car, and I say this a lot, you can be the fastest car on the racetrack, but if you can't maintain the pace and have that pace the whole race, then it's kind of pointless, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we accidentally just pulled up on here when you made contact with the one early in the race with about 20 to go. He goes to the outside wall, but the debate here is that the one was headed below the apron. It kind of ties into this spot you were talking about later on in the race when you had momentum from behind from the 88 getting into you and then spinning the 28. Plate track racing is tough. It's very tough, but do you think later down the road this contact, especially at some of maybe the road courses, is that going to be similar to what we saw with the road courses? I mean, or from the plate track here, you just said a couple moments ago the aggression levels and things early on need to tone down, but you think that bumper can still be used, and is it going to be, I mean, notorious from what we saw from the super speedways if it's used?
It just all depends on everybody coming into the race and how they're going to drive it, right? So if they come out there and just go out there and absolutely drive over their heads into the turns, then yes, it could get bad early. But if everybody just gets out there and sets a good pace and let the fast cars get out in front instead of trying to race them on a restart and just let things play out, just let the cars go that are faster than you, obviously, because there's going to be a big gap in the pace. You can probably go see some cars in a 10-second gap from the fastest car to the slowest car, just by being the size of the track and on the road course as it is. So it all just comes down to if they're going to play nice or they're not.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're getting close to our time here for our interview, but we've got one last question and a little trend we're going to do here with the podcasting. A random question. What is your favorite food or drink? And if you had to have a snack in the car during a race, what's the go-to?
Well, all honesty, if I'm snacking on something during the race, I'm gonna have me like some popcorn in a bag over here, and it's gonna be sprinkled out on the table a little bit. If I need some more, I'm gonna shake the bag and get some more popcorn. Kind of like got an endless snack right there, popcorn. Right now I'm currently drinking C4, so energy drink C4, Celsius, Primes are good ones. I try to steer away from the stuff with the sugar in it now. Um, Food. Um, I've gotta say sushi. It's gotta be sushi. I would eat sushi every day if it was there.
All right. Well, that is Kameron Wesenberg, our winner, Mr. Smoke. Cameron, appreciate you putting in the time for the podcast here. Again, congratulations on the big win at Daytona, and good luck in the upcoming weeks. We're going to ask for people watching the podcast, let us know. You want Kameron Wesenberg back in the podcast, even if he's not a winner? All right, Cameron, anything you want to say before we let you go for the afternoon?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, so we've got our Daytona winner done and interviewed. Obviously, again, a couple more guests that we'll have on for today's podcast. This next one here is Steven Henning. Steven Henning's been racing for a little while, to my knowledge, and we've got him here now. So, Steven Henning from the league, you had a pole to get started for Daytona. Welcome onto the podcast here. Thanks for taking the time. So you started on pole, and how did that feel to get started from P1?
It felt good. I was wanting to get a pole to start the season. That definitely helped break the ice a lot more. But yeah, it felt amazing to be up front there to lead them to green.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you got a couple of laps led there too under the belt. It's a nice stat to have to get the season going. So pace car pulls in. You're the leader of the Daytona 250, I guess we'll call it, but essentially Daytona 500. You're going green and leading the field. You clear the 21 shortly after. Walk me through that feeling.
Well, but yeah, exactly. Like I was just hoping to get past Shane there because I knew he was going to be a pretty good competition for me. So I wanted to get him past, and then we could just kind of go single file and just go from there. So it was pretty nerve wracking coming to that green flag because I knew who my competition was beside me, and so I just wanted to kind of get her strung out and go from there. But yeah.
Yeah, and then caution comes out. You kind of get some free laps led, kind of get to calm the nerves in a sense. So walk me through what's the preparation before a race? And I know we'll get to some of your road course history, which is kind of why we brought you on for this one especially. But we'll get to the road course point in a second. So I'll kind of tie that in. Walk me through the difference between preparing for an oval and then kind of bleed into the road course part for me, if you will.
Yeah. Preparing for ovals basically for me is you do obviously the long distance, see how the tires are on certain setups and stuff. But for me, I mostly practice my qualifying because if you don't have a good qualifying, it's going to be a long night either way. So I basically practice my qualifying and go from there. But yeah, it's not really much that I do, I think, different than anybody else. But yeah, like road course is way different for me. I don't know if you want me to elaborate.
Yeah,
more
go for
on
it.
that.
Yeah, go for it.
For road course, it's just more or less where your key braking points are and where you need to slow down by before you go barreling off the track. And just remembering every corner as good as you can in your mind and just going off of that for however long the race is and just getting it drilled in your head that this corner here, it's going to be a trouble corner when you have people around you because it is like, say, a sharp right-hander, and it's like, okay, there's going to be probably somebody knocking on your door, and you gotta make sure that both of you can make it through it, or at least one of you. So that's just the way I am with it. Everybody's, I think, different.
Yeah, for sure. So before the race has even started, before practice is up, or the practice session beforehand, what's that routine to kind of get you going for a race?
Listening to music and just lots of practice throughout the week. Just a lot of sim time and just getting everything down pat, even if it's on oval. If say it's an oval that I don't like or can't race on exactly, I'll spend a lot of time in the sim and just make sure that we're good to go for when the race session opens.
Yeah, and for some of the race people there too, describe what is sim time?
It's basically what we have. It's our what you guys would see on the broadcast. We have our own like rigs, and basically it's a live cockpit like what you'd see in NASCAR and stuff like that. But it's just called something different. Instead of a cockpit, it's called the sim. And yeah, well, you got your wheel, you got your shifter for some guys, and obviously you have to have the PC and the monitor. And yeah, it depends on what you all have in it to make it more realistic. But yeah, that's basically what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes kind of like your desk at the office job, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so to blend into that road course here, because I've been told from many drivers, and even Kameron Wesenberg made a comment. He said, "Watch out for AJ and Steven Henning when it comes to the road course next week." So in my mind, immediately, I'm like, I'm gonna grab one of these two. We're gonna talk about that road course coming up here, Daytona road course next week. So walk me through your background. Why are people saying you're a road course guy?
I honestly don't know. I when I was on Heat 5, I honestly really sucked at road courses until a few of my buddies pulled me aside and we really worked on road course racing and just getting it down pat for me. And then first thing I did when I got onto iRacing was really learn the craft of road course racing and get it down to the way I had it in Heat. And it's just stuck with me since then. And I guess, yeah, you could call me a road course ringer.
Yeah, for sure. So, what's your racing background in real life, or just, I guess, even in more iRacing perspective?
Well, my racing background would be, I guess, road course and short tracks, because I grew up around road courses and short tracks all my life, being in Canada with the NASCAR Canada Series out here doing all the road courses and short tracks. So I've grown up around it, and in sim, I've just tried to be better on both fronts of the short tracks and the road courses, and trying to get better at the cookie cutter tracks at the ovals, and we seem to be striding really good in the last month or so, I would say.
Yeah. So, I guess kind of then with your background with some of those road courses in Canada, I guess, because you're a Canadian driver, um, what's the difference, I guess, between maybe some of the Canadian road courses compared to an American ones, or are they sort of similar?
They're similar. You have like your street courses here in Canada, which are literally they take place on the street. So it'd be kind of like Chicago for you guys. We have our street course in Toronto that we do yearly, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, like some of them are similar, some of them are not. Like you have, I think it's Villeneuve. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's just a beast on its own. I find nothing can compare to it. It's its own wild track, I find. But yeah, a lot of the road courses are a lot of similarities to, say, Watkins Glen, Sonoma, and stuff like that that you guys have.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm gonna toss you kind of a tough question because I think it's going to be something maybe mentioned at some point between the fans or just even something with real life NASCAR. When it comes down to it, some fans are not a fan of road courses. Some people are. So I'm taking the the short track, the road course expert here, Mr. Ringer yourself. Why do you like road courses, and do you prefer those over some of the ovals, or vice versa?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like a road course over an oval any day. For me, the reason why I like it, it just shows your racecraft and just how well you can control a car. And because, as they've said before, what you do in a race car, you're racing something completely out of control, and you're controlling it. And that really speaks for road course racing because those things are a handful, and you're just controlling it, and just wheeling it, and doing it the best that you know possible, and getting it to the finish line.
Yeah, for sure. And from even in my experience too, it's been a tough adjustment to go to some of those road courses and learn them. But me personally, like when I get to a road course, that's something that I love, trying to piece new corners that I haven't been on before and kind of string those together. So when it comes down to it, getting the time and everything put into those road courses is definitely helpful, for the racecraft. How would you convince somebody that track, however, belongs on the schedule compared to just filling it with ovals?
Um, that one's a hard one. Um, what I would do is just say to them like, it's it's a good way to learn something new and feel proud of yourself at the end. It doesn't matter if you finish dead last. It doesn't matter as long as you can say that you can go around there and complete a lap at least. That's something to be proud of because not a lot of people can go out there and do a road course and say, "Hey, I've done a lap around this track and I kept it under me." It doesn't matter if you wreck out at the end of the day. It's something to be proud of. And with an oval, yeah, you can be proud of at an oval, but at the same time, there's a lot of components that go into the road racing and a lot of mind games that go into it too. But that's basically what I would say, I think.
Okay. And how about for like a fan, maybe less of not a driver, but somebody watching that maybe they don't like the road courses. Why do you think that might be, and how would you maybe tell them to just kind of watch, or what should they be looking for if to maybe enjoy that race more?
Yeah. F- for my mom's sake, she says that she doesn't like watching road racing. And she goes, "Well, I don't understand why you like it so much." And I say to her every time, it's cool to watch a driver go out there and put it all out on the line and show what they can actually do behind a race car. Because yeah, you can go around in an oval and stuff, but when you're actually doing lefts and rights and slowing down, braking, and doing throttle control and stuff like that, it shows really how good of a racer you can be. And that's basically what my philosophy is on it for a fan looking at it that way from like the broadcast way.
Yeah, for sure. So this is something that's been brought up, I think, before in the past, and I forget exactly where I had heard it from. But someone had mentioned to me before that when it comes down to it, the road courses are just like, some people struggle on them, and you'll notice some of those people also struggle with getting onto pit road. So you mentioned those extra components. It's the shifting down, the getting on the brakes heavy. Some drivers aren't able to do that. And do you think that is also a reason why sometimes those guys who get into pit road really well are sometimes also the road course racers? And just an interesting little piece that sometimes it boils down to it, a race getting into pit road quickly, and trying to overstep that line. Does that resonate with some of the road course racing, and why maybe some of those road racers are good for pit entry?
Yeah, definitely. It's a game of inches, as they have always said. But with road racing, yeah, definitely you got to be precise on braking and obviously that stuff. So obviously, yeah, going down pit road, hitting the brakes just right, and getting it slowed down enough that you won't break over the speed limit in pit road. And yeah, definitely, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we're getting close to our time for today, but a little trend that we did with Smoke, uh, Kameron Wesenberg, we asked him a random question, but we'll get to that one in just a second because there's another trend I'm also wanting to start with these podcasts. So, Mr. Wesenberg has no idea what you've said, obviously, and he won't until this podcast is actually published out there. So, when it comes to racing and competitiveness, talk about Wesenberg for a moment. Compliment his skill set and what you saw from Daytona on him.
Just a guy that never gave up all night from what I've seen. He's always been like that. Even when I raced with him on heat, he's just that old school type driver where it doesn't matter what position you are, he's gonna make it happen. And if he's not, he's gonna at least try and say that, oh, I had a chance at it and I didn't take it. He's gonna say I took the chance and it didn't work out. And he's just a class act, and I like racing around him.
Okay, and then the second question for you. If you had to pick a drink at the moment that's been your favorite drink, what would that be? What's your favorite food? And third question, I know there's three questions here, but if you had to have a snack while you're on the racetrack, what's the go-to snack?
Um, well, favorite drink right now would probably be probably Pepsi or something like that. And then you said snack.
What would be your favorite food, and then a snack that you would have in the cockpit?
Oh, favorite food. Well, I've been really wanting to get a pizza last few days, so I'll probably say pizza.
Okay.
And then a snack I'd probably have is probably something like a granola bar or a sandwich of some sort. You don't want to have a gourmet meal sitting beside you in the sim and
You don't
make
want to
yourself
have,
look like a mess.
right? You don't want to have the Wagyu steak next to you while you're
Yeah,
going
definitely not,
195 down the back straightaway.
It'd be a cool story, but it'd be a messy story at the end of it.
Oh yeah. Well, that is Steven Henning for you, Steven. Before we let you go, anything else you want to say before we let you depart for the evening?
Just thanks for having me on this. This is cool. I've never been on a podcast like this before, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you having us. Well, we had you on the podcast. That is indeed. Well, you have a great rest of your night, and we'll be going forward to our next interview for today. All right, so now we are here with Mr. Shane Harr, who ended up having the most laps led for the Inspired 250 race, and, well, although it didn't really end up the way he wanted, he definitely showed that Toyota's got something in the camp. So I'm here now with Mr. Shane Harr. Shane, thank you for hopping over and taking the time to do the podcast here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of looked like you were a factor in the race. At about lap 26, looks like you and Nathan Johnson hooked up and kind of made those moves to get towards the front there. So kind of walk me through. It was a little bit of a pits and kind of working your way through the field, but your Toyotas got strong right at lap 26 coming to 27. So what kind of got that momentum built for you to get to the lead?
Really, we all just kind of we ended up in the front there. The main goal was to, try to stick together the whole race, and it just so happens we ended up together. So it worked out perfect, honestly.
Yeah, and it's in that moment too that I think one of the questions that was brought up to me was on lap 27, you're pushing with Nathan Johnson there, your teammate, and you two were riding. What ended up getting you around him, and what was kind of running through your mind behind the teammate? Was it just push him, ride in line, or were you thinking maybe we could take the move now?
At that point, it was pretty much right in line. It's pretty much what we did, I believe, until that first pit stop, where I believe is where I got around him.
Okay, yeah, and for sure, and it It seems like you've always been a team player with when it comes to racing, which is obviously an attribute to everyone on that Toyota front. So, kind of give me a background, I guess, in the sense what makes you the team player, and what kind of gets you going for that.
I guess the background, you know, people, I guess, have always kind of came to me, whether it be DMs or, personal phone calls over the years. And I've always kind of been that teacher, I guess, where people, I don't know, seem to come to me, I guess. And I guess that's kind of how it all started and why I'm here today.
Yeah, for sure. So we got you here in iRacing. We've heard you've got a career back from NASCAR Heat leagues and 4 and 5. Obviously, had some success over there. What got you into racing, and especially with sim racing, and kind of transferred you over to iRacing? But more so specifically, walk me through the background. What put you into racing?
Well, it was probably a good 6, 7 years ago, maybe now. Um, my dad actually had the Heat 3 game for PlayStation, and I borrowed it from him one time. So there I was sitting on my couch with my controller, trying it out for the first time, and I just kind of got addicted from there. I ended up buying my first wheel, Logitech G29, and built my first sim rig out of wood, 2x4s and screws. Kind of got me hooked on it, I guess, and from there I ran a couple leagues. Was kind of president of one actually at one point when we moved to Heat 5. Um, and from there, just kind of got into iRacing, and I found that's probably the best thing out there right now for us.
Yeah, so you kind of worked from the ground up, so to speak, and especially even, I mean, your own setup built, and now obviously with iRacing, what was the transition spot for you to get to iRacing compared to the console racing? And I guess tell me, what's your experience been like on both platforms?
My experience on the Heat series was honestly really good. I had a lot of fun, won a lot of races, competed for a few championships. Won. I would like to have won a few more, but unfortunately things didn't go our way. When I transitioned over to iRacing, um, really kind of just getting started. I'm only a year in here, so we're learning every day and trying to get better every lap.
Yeah, for sure, and that's something that I've noticed too on the track for you is the team leader spot really fits the bill for you very well, and people really kind of flock over that way. The learning curve, and especially on your team, has always been really strong. So, and I remember that too because that you were my first assigned team captain in any league I had been in. So even for me, like I can say, you kind of coached me into some of the roles I've been into today. Um, so you've been here with Inspired Racing League, and you've had a little bit of a history, with a lot of the people that are in it. Tell me, what made you want to get on board with Inspired Racing League?
Well, I personally just mainly friendships with a lot of the people here. I've known a lot of these guys for going on five or more years, honestly. So it's a friendship thing. It's a role, that I felt would fit me. So I'd like to give it everything I have and see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first race here is a little bit rough, I guess, in the sense of the cautions, the amount of drivers may have been a factor into that, but not to not to bash any of the driving that had happened, but from a I would say a veteran perspective in the sense of racing anyway. I mean, being one of the higher I rating guys in the league, even, and for those fans who may not know I rating, so there's official races to kind of work on to get your personal license upward. So the I rating is just a number that is assigned to it to say your quicker pace generally in those other lobbies. Doesn't work for leagues, so that doesn't get registered into it. But so the I rating is outside of league and racing and official iRacing hosted lobbies. But not to make a long story short, you've been a participant of the heat leagues as well. I would say you are definitely a veteran class of the league here and experience from other leagues as well. So from your knowledge here, right, and take that teacher role, if you will, what do you think was a main component for this race to maybe be, in a sense, rough?
Well, we had a few, new teammates of ours that, we haven't really raced with or seen, how maybe some of them race, drive, how they handle things, different pushes, different moments. I feel in time, we'll work with them. We will, hopefully, all of us as a team will improve and, we'll work together and try to improve as a team.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you work towards that improvement that you're looking for?
Communication, I feel, is key. You gotta reach out to these guys that, maybe struggling or just can't find that extra 2-3 tenths that they need, to be competitive. Maybe it's throttle control, maybe, just how they're braking. Um, so me as a coach, as a teacher, that's kind of in my wheelhouse where I like to find those things out and try to help them people.
Yeah, for sure. So that kind of ties, I guess, into the next question that I had, and we've asked Steven Henning, who is a fairly decent road racer. We brought him in as probably the ringer of the road courses, so to speak. And he was talking about the road course. In your words, though, how would you describe the transition from high banks of Daytona, which you'll be on, those banks as well, but it's not going to be at the speeds of 190 miles per hour and plate racing. What's that transition like to go to the road course next week?
It's gonna be really big, I feel, for a lot of drivers. Personally, going 198 into turn three, last Tuesday or last Monday, compared to this Monday going into turn two, it's going to be, 50 miles an hour. So it's going to be a lot different. People are going to have to use the brake a little bit more than we did last week. And hopefully we don't end up with too much chaos.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we brought up there with Steven Henning was the tough question for him that we had was, I guess in the sense some fans or even some drivers are not a fan of the right turns of the road course. And Steven brought up a really good point and said, well, you have extra components. It's about the braking, the shifting. Even Kameron Wesenberg made the comment about, those shift points and engine braking, so to speak. What makes road course racing to you fun, and how would you tell a fan, hey, this is what to be looking for next week?
Next week, I would be looking for cars that can save their rear tires. Honestly, there's going to be a lot of slipping and sliding, because these cars have 750 horsepower, so it's not easy to put all that power to the pavement. So I look for guys a little too hard on the throttle, maybe locking up the tires, coming into the brakes, coming into them chicanes are going to be tough, coming from wide open third, fourth gear down to first gear, 70 miles an hour. So it's all about consistency, I feel, and hopefully we'll get some of that.
Yeah, for sure. So something else that I'm going to kind of veer off of the topic we gave to you before. I'm going to veer and try to illustrate me a picture, or illustrate for the listeners a picture, I guess, in the sense of there's 35 laps at the road course and there's 100 at the super speedway level. There's a difference though between the two races, and those 35 are way more difficult. So how do you prepare for a race like that? We asked Steven Henning the question. He said, listen to music before the race. But what about the physical versus the mental side of it? In your words, how would you say to prepare for for Daytona and then Daytona Road Course?
Well, the preparation really, is totally different. With the oval part of it, you got pretty much, throttle control wide open to, half throttle most of the time. Where you get to the road course, you got to add that brake feature, throttle control, steering, oversteer, understeer. So, yeah, honestly, it's going to be tough for guys in that transition, I feel. Um, some of them are going to handle it better than others, but you'll definitely see the ones that can handle the throttle control, I feel, this week compared to last.
Yeah, for sure. So talk to me about the before lobby, before the race is up. What is that preparation like before a race? And is it different for an oval or a road course?
For me, it's the warm up before is more of a time where I just kind of sit back and reflect. Get buckled in. Make sure everything's tight, everything feels good. Maybe listen to a beat or two, and get in the zone.
Yeah, for sure. And that seems like probably the routine that I feel like a lot of people are kind of following into that. Um, so we talked about the teaching moments and the upcoming race. What is something that you think you could, maybe if there's a newer driver in here that could be asking for advice going into Daytona Road Course, and maybe say in the regard of maybe it's not even Daytona Road Course, maybe they have, an upcoming race that maybe it's not even a road course, could be an oval track. What would be your advice on the racetrack for the typical driver?
Well, my advice for the typical driver would be probably, take it easy your first couple laps, even races, take it easy, learn the people you're racing around. You'll learn a lot in them first couple races of who to be around and who you kind of want to stay away from. So from there, you can take it one step at a time. Whether it be how hard you're getting into a corner, or maybe you're braking just a little too hard here, or a trail brake would have been more suffice in that situation.
Yeah, and then how about next, our upcoming race here for Daytona Road Course? What would be the advice you would give to a driver?
Um, just be consistent. Save them rear tires and keep her pointed in the right direction.
Sounds like the perfect recipe for a good race, doesn't it?
It really does.
All right, well, that's gonna do us for some time here, but we've got two more questions before we let you go. We've got two trends that we are doing with the podcast. So Steven Henning has no idea that you're going to talk about him for a moment here. He got to talk about Kameron, and so he said what he got to say about Kameron beforehand, and now it's your turn with Steven there. He got the pole, and he led quite a few laps there in the beginning of the race, and I've noticed this trend with Steven Henning lately. The guy just seems to qualify really well. What would be your complimentaries to Steven Henning?
He has been qualifying really well. The guy's got, he's a wheel man. He's steady with that wheel. He's always right there, lurking, waiting for that mistake per se to happen in front of him, and he makes sure to pounce on it.
Yeah, for sure. He seems to be one of those drivers too. I would list in that veteran category for racing. So then the next question we've got for you is kind of a random one, but it's what we've asked the other two before you. What is your favorite food, your favorite drink, and if you're in the cockpit, what's your go-to snack?
Ooh, it's a very good question. Favorite drink would probably be we're like a strawberry lemonade, we'll say. My go-to snack. I'm not really a snack guy when I'm behind the wheel. I like to keep both hands on the wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Uh, what was your other question there?
Favorite food?
Favorite food, okay. Um, Probably tater tot hot dish.
Yep.
Tater tot casserole. That's one of my favorites.
I felt like that one was coming up from fellow northern northern guy here.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
How about the green bean casserole though? Does it have to stay as tater tot hot dish, or can it be green bean casserole?
The green bean completely changes it, so I feel it cannot contain green beans.
Okay, we are gonna disagree respectfully on that, but um, you said any type of casserole though in front of me. It's going down. It is going down.
It is very tasty.
All right, that is Shane Harr for you guys. Appreciate everybody for checking out the podcast here. That'll do it for today's episode of the Inspired Racing Lead podcast. Shane Harr, we appreciate you stepping in. Any last things you want to say? How about you close it out for podcast number 1 for us?
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoy what you see here. We look forward to many weeks of this and hope to see you around.
All right, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to hit those follows, the subscribes, do all those things that keep us in the business here. Appreciate you checking it out, and have a great rest of your day.